So now 10:31 here in New York. Breaking news yet again with the ousted Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro will be up before a judge in about 90 minutes now for his arraignment along with his wife here in New York City. They are facing charges of drug trafficking. He faces 4 charges, she faces 3. Former AG, the Attorney General Bill Barr, is with me. And good to have you on. Good morning to you. You were there 5 years ago writing the original indictment. What is at the forefront of your mind? Where should we put our attention as we watch this today, sir?
Well, this is a superseding indictment that adds some detail. It drops some people, it adds some people. It's interesting. It's a very strong case. It has a lot of detail, and the basic allegations are the same as we originally charged in 2020. This was a criminal organization that used the instrumentalities, facilities of the state to make Venezuela a hub of drug trafficking. They were engaged in their own trafficking directly, cocaine up into the United States, both on ships, boats, and aircraft. And they also worked very closely, conspired with, and worked hand in hand with 5 different terrorist and drug trafficking organizations. FARC and ELN in Colombia, Tren de Aragua in Venezuela, which was essentially a henchman for Maduro and his group, and 2 Mexican cartels, Zetas and Sinaloa. So it's a very strong indictment. One of the interesting things is one of the people we originally charged, a fellow named El Polo, who's a critical player, had broken with Maduro, was in Spain. He was eventually captured after we indicted him in 2020, and he has now pled guilty just in June. So there's a lot of detail in the indictment that may come from El Polo, who could prove to be a key witness.
You were also
another key point.
Yeah, go ahead. Another key point is what?
Or just another key point is in 2020 we indicted the general in charge, Padrino. That was in a separate indictment in D.C. I haven't heard anything more about that. There's nothing new about him in the current indictment, which I think is interesting. And then they added his wife and his son and the head of Tren de Aragua. So that's essentially what this case is about. It's a very strong case, a lot of detail.
Okay, so I heard you say on Fox News Sunday yesterday, and given your long history, you were around with Noriega out of Panama in 1989.
Right.
You believe this case is
Yes.
stronger against Maduro than it was against Noriega. Why?
It's a more complicated case, a lot more to it in terms of the direct drug activities, but it's much stronger and a broader case because of the pervasive involvement of this group, this large group, in directly trafficking and facilitating. They were providing government equipment and so forth to different other cartels and so forth. So it's a very strong case. Now, trying Noriega, just getting to trial took 21 months. And then the trial itself, which was under a terrific judge, one of the greatest district court judges in the United States, a fellow named Hoovler, who kept the thing moving, that trial took 7 months. So this is a long process people can strap in, but at the end of the day, there'll be a lot of legal maneuvering. The judge is important as to whether he can keep this thing moving along on a good timetable, but I think he will end up being convicted.
Okay, let me go ahead and give you a couple things here. Democrats are going after the legality of this. Here is Democrat Jim Himes. Let's do that first from CBS on Sunday.
Clearly illegal under international law, right? No, full stop, UN Charter, no question there. Clearly not legal under the Constitution because though presidents of both parties have argued against this, the Constitution is really pretty clear that the representatives of the people get to be consulted and ultimately approve military activity. That has not happened here at all. And so, again, there's nothing legal about this.
I want you to answer that. Go ahead and address the legality of that. Then I'll ask you a very specific question about the comparisons between Noriega and Maduro. Go ahead.
Well, first, on the Constitution, he's just wrong. It does not require it for military activity. It requires it for going to war. And we haven't gone to war here. And otherwise, over our entire history, presidents have had a lot of latitude deploying military forces and using force in a targeted way to deal with threats to the United States and to enforce our laws. And this is justified both as a law enforcement measure and as a national security measure. As to international law, it is not a violation of the international law. First, we have never agreed that under the UN Charter, the only time you can use force is when you're actually under attack, armed attack by somebody else. We've never agreed to that, and that's not the only reason for defending yourself. We've always taken the position we can use force to defend our vital national interests, the safety of the American people. So he's simply wrong on that. Furthermore, under international law, we clearly are the victim here. They have been violating international law by using their sovereign territory and their de facto control to conduct hostile activities that are slaughtering Americans. What are we supposed to do? Just sit here and let a narco state act like that? You can't use law enforcement to prosecute them over there and get their cooperation because they are the problem. And so it's like in Panama, this is an appropriate situation where we can enforce our laws by going in and arresting the perpetrators. And this
let me squeeze that in here. Here's the comparison between Maduro and Noriega, all right? And you tell us what we're missing if there's a distinction or a difference now. Not recognized by the U.S. as legitimate leaders of the country at the time of apprehension. Both taken into custody January 3rd, ironically. Both indicted on federal drug trafficking charges. Both captured by military operation, no declaration of war or congressional authorization. Like Noriega of 1989, Maduro likely to invoke immunity defense. Like Noriega, likely to fail. The manner in which the defendant brought to the U.S. does not defeat the jurisdiction. So he was tried, imprisoned in the U.S., Noriega was, imprisoned in Europe, went to Panama where he died behind bars. What did we get wrong there?
Yes. Yeah, that's all right. There is a doctrine, by the way, called the Kerr-Frisbee doctrine. We briefed this, argued it at the time of the Noriega case, and the Supreme Court has been clear. It doesn't matter how he got here. Once he's in front of the court and he's been charged, he stands trial and can be convicted. Okay. So, all these arguments don't really affect his ultimate responsibility and the government's ability to bring this to trial and get a conviction.
Thanks for coming back. Appreciate your time. We'll work through it. Kerry Urban, who used to work with you, informed us earlier today that your favorite show is Narcos. Fittingly. Thank you, sir. We'll talk soon. Bill Barr.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Right. Yep.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.